themselves. There's 21 counties right now that have health ordinances, rural counties, conservative counties, that have passed health ordinances to protect their people, family farmers, from these corporate industrial livestock operations. And then they just passed Senate Bill 391, and I'm going to talk about that just for a second. Senate Bill 391 takes away that right. Thousands of people, tens of thousands of people, contacted their legislators, came down to lobby days, they wrote letters to the editor, they wrote op-eds, they had public meetings, they made their local electeds know at the State House that everybody in Missouri out here is opposed to getting rid of local control. They passed it anyways because of corporate influence, and in large part because of our governor, who's in bed with corporate ag. So what we did was, and what Jeff Jones did, and what Cooper County Health Board did, and what the Cedar County Commission did, along with Fred and Susan Williams, they sued Senate Bill 391. I don't know how you can sue a bill, but they sued. They said this bill isn't constitutional. So because corporate ag right now is going around saying they're going to sue counties that have these ordinances, because statutes are according to the Constitution, statutes are presumed to be prospective and not retroactive. They're not supposed to go backwards, they only go forwards. And that's Article 1, Section 13 of the Constitution. Corporate ag is saying they're going to sue anyways. And they're going, and Jeff Jones can speak to that as well. So we filed a lawsuit, people filed lawsuits, so that these counties can have some protections from corporate ag saying they're going to sue them. And that lawsuit is just started and it's ongoing. I'm going to finish right now. We've got 50,000 cattle producers in the state. A lot of our members raise cattle. Jeff Jones, Terry Spence raise cattle. We need to protect the independent family farmers in our state, the 50,000 cattle producers that are major economic drivers, that are producing food sustainably. And with the passage of Senate Bill 391, corporate ag lobbyists and our state government took away our rights. CAFOs make up 0.5% of Missouri's farming operations. We have 100,000 family farms. We got 500 CAFOs. Our elected representatives should be working to protect the vast majority of Missourians instead of a small number of corporate and now foreign-controlled CAFOs.
Thank you, Terry. Okay, next up we have Melinda Hemmelgarn. She is a registered dietitian and investigating nutritionist with experience in clinical, academic, and public health nutrition. She's an award-winning writer, speaker, and host of nationally syndicated Food Sleuth Radio, which connects the dots between food, health, and agriculture, and helps consumers think critically about food and farming media messages. Melinda?
Thank you all for coming out for this film. It's really important to see what's going on. You know, I have a quote from Elizabeth Warren. She said, "A problem not seen is a problem not fixed." And I thought that this film really showed the problems within rural communities that people are facing because of CAFOs coming in. I also have a book with me that I want to show anybody who's interested what it looks like inside a CAFO and how animals live. So as a dietitian, you know, people frequently ask me, well, what should I eat? And when I first started out in my profession, I was really focused on the food itself. And then I realized we have to find out how our food is produced and who produces it. That's just as important. It's also important to be a citizen about food and know how to advocate. So I encourage all of you here who were moved by this movie as much as I was to really reach out and contact your senators, contact your representatives. I called my county commissioners. Are any of the county commissioners here? Raise your hand if you are. Well, I called Fred Perry, Janet Thompson, and Dan Atwell. Only Dan returned my call and Janet Thompson. And they said that they were afraid of having a health ordinance in Boone County because they were afraid of being sued. We can't live in fear of being sued. We have to have a health ordinance to protect us. Write letters to the editor. Call into radio shows. If we don't speak out, we won't be heard, we won't be seen. People won't know that this really matters to us. So, you know, I used to buy my meat. People ask me, okay, what do you eat? So I'll tell you, I used to buy my meat in the grocery store, and I don't do that anymore. We are so lucky to have a wonderful farmer's market where we can buy meat directly from the farmers. We can also go to Patchwork Family Farms and buy meat from family farmers there. We have a choice, but so many citizens don't have a choice. The other issue that I want to talk about is something that was missing from the film, but we are at a point where we're really at this perfect storm where we have climate change and antibiotic resistance. So the E. coli bacteria that we can't see that was in that canal, I would bet dollars to donuts that that E. coli is antibiotic resistant. So there have been numerous studies around the country, one by Maggie Carell, who's the daughter of a couple of university professors, who is now in Iowa, and she did a study on veterans who lived close to a CAFO. And long story short, the closer you live to a confined animal feeding operation, in this case hogs, the more likely you are to be a carrier of antibiotic-resistant bacteria. Based on new data, the third largest reason for dying is from an infection that is resistant to antibiotics. So we have lived in this golden age where we could take for granted that we had clean water from the tap, or that if we got sick, we could have an antibiotic and we'd be fine in a few days. But we're losing that, and that's really serious. And these kinds of confined animal feeding operations fester that kind of bacteria. And when individuals go from those farms into our hospitals and clinics, they bring with them the antibiotic-resistant bacteria. So we're all in this together, you know, we're all connected. And so it's very important that our food choices reflect our values as much as we can. People say, well, you know, it costs more. But the cost of antibiotic-resistant infections will break us. This is not a sustainable model. We can't continue onward. Air and water quality, you know, when I moved to Missouri, I fell in love with the land just like the woman from Wisconsin did. And being on those rivers and streams is just such a joy. You know, I might be 62, but when I'm in the river, I am 10 years old again. And the idea of losing the ability not only to have clean water from our tap, but to lose the ability to fish with our grandchildren, or to go on a kayak or a canoe, or just flop around in the water, that is quality of life, and that should not be robbed. That should not be taken from us. The last point I want to make has to do with some information that was sent to me by a fellow dietitian, and they were videos that were produced by the University Extension. Now, I used to work in university, at the University and Extension, and I used to think that university science, that was all there was. Yeah, done. And what I learned from these videos that were produced by Extension is that they actually are promoting CAFOs. When I testified against Senate Bill 391, there were people who spoke in favor of it, and they were ag economists from the university. So we have a lot of work to do. We all have to pay attention. Being a citizen is really hard work, but we can do it when we stand together and work together. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Melinda. Next up, we have Jeff Jones. Jeff is a fourth-generation full-time traditional family farmer born and raised in Callaway County. Jeff is the owner and operator of Jones Angus Farms and the president of the Friends of Responsible Agriculture. He graduated from the North Callaway High School and received a Bachelor of Science degree at the University of Missouri in Animal Science. Jeff is a member of the Pleasant Grove United Methodist Church in Canton, Missouri. Jeff?
Can everybody hear me okay? All right, so I just want to say that it's my honor to be up here with this panel and to stand with each and every one of y'all for coming out here tonight and giving your time to be here. This is so important. Just like Melinda said, if we can stand united, that's when good things happen. And everything that we see that's coming down from this film and what's happening in my backyard from 3/10 of a mile from my home is trying to divide us. It tries to divide family, friends, communities. It tries to break apart all the ties that has joined us together. Our farms date back to 1894. They're century farms. We were born and raised into this. We're 110% agriculture. We believe in being stewards of the soil, which brings everybody together. It's not talking about just the dirt. It's talking about the water, the air, the people that live around us, our family, our friends, the next generation. It's got a big scope. The wolf that's in our backyard that has come in close to us has rode the shirt tail of what our forefathers has proven to be effective and good. They call themselves family farmers, but they don't act like family farmers. They don't have to say a word, but you can watch how they act and how they treat others and even how they treat their animals, and you'll know the truth of who's standing around you. We cannot let this divide us. We got to come together like who SRF and what Scott Dye set up for us here tonight, to unite and make an effort to make sure that the truth is heard. I heard that we can't fight something we can't see. Well, we can see this. If you can't see it, you can see through my eyes. You can come to my home at any time, and I'll be happy to take you around. There's over 16,000 adult hogs within a mile of my house. Many of these are within 3/10 of a mile. I would never do that to a neighbor. Why would they come in there and change our lives forever in a negative way, soiling our air and our water, ruining our lifestyles, breaking apart our communities and our families that we have grown up with? I've got neighbors sitting here in this audience tonight that has 30-year manure easements that's been signed up with land next to their homes. They're trying to sell their homes because nobody can live next to one of these, and they can't sell their homes. That is the truth and the reality of it. When they say that, oh, you might have a little bit less income from your land, or the value of your home, or the value of your actual land, it's not that. It's a no sale. It's not a low sale. And I can show it to you. I can take you around and I can prove it to you. Those 30-year manure easements are tied to the land. And what these CAFOs do is they go around and find farmers that they pledge so much manure to, whether they sell it to it, give it to it. I don't know exactly how they do that. But when they sign that dotted line, that is attached to that land for 30 years, even upon the death or the sale of the landowner. These are the truths that we have to live with. I sat in court today while my father was 80 years old and the rest of my family tried to take care of things there at home because I knew I needed to be there. This Senate Bill 391 is just a takeoff from what the Right to Farm did years ago. It is a CAFO-based change, and it's negative, and that's what it's all about. Whenever you take away the people's voice, that ought to be unconstitutional. There are many ordinances through the state of Missouri that stands, and I heard Robert Brundage basically say today, and he's the attorney for the Cattlemen's Association, the Pork Association, the Farm Bureau, that when 391 is enacted, they are fair game. In other words, he's coming after them. He's going to sue them. The only way they can be protected is they've got to join the suit. And by the grace of God, hopefully we can win this suit so that we can continue our way of life. Because if 391 takes away local control from us, just like the movie showed in other states, the state of Missouri won't be able to defend itself from CAFOs. It makes it a free-for-all. We were very blessed with one of the best attorneys that I've ever known, and it's Stephen Jeffers. And he stood up against all odds, and he works for pennies on the dollars trying to help us defend our homes and take care of one another and the next generation. And I've got the greatest respect for that man. Even if you haven't met him, you can see through my
we have Terry Spence. Terry and his wife Linda own and operate a livestock farm in northeast Missouri near the Iowa border, where he was born and raised. Terry is president of Citizens Legal Environmental Action Network, that's CLEAN for short, and of Family Farms for the Future, and is a certified level 3 volunteer water quality monitor for Missouri Stream Team 714. He has presented testimony before the U.S. House Subcommittee on CAFOs and at numerous Missouri Clean Water Commission hearings, Missouri Air Conservation Commission hearings, and has worked with various environmental organizations on a state and national level. Terry was selected as one of the 30 heroes for each of the 30 years of the Federal Clean Water Act and received the 2010 Justice Award from the Missouri Attorney General for dedication and commitment to environmental protection, and has served 2 terms as a member of the USDA Agriculture Air Quality Task Force. Terry is a former advisory board member at the Center for Livable Future at Johns Hopkins. Terry has spent many years as a consultant for the Socially Responsible Agricultural Project, which is a national organization working with numerous communities across the United States that are being impacted by industrialized agricultural operations. Terry is presently the Executive Director of the Socially Responsible Agricultural Project. Terry, welcome.
Thank you, Carolyn, and I want to thank each of you tonight that's come to watch this film. I hope you can visualize now what is happening not only here in Missouri but all across the United States on the issue of animal feeding operations. I am a family farmer. I've lived here on the farm that we live on now since I was born. I was only away 2 years of my life. My wife and I reside there. We run a cow-calf operation. And what changed my life in 1995 was 80,000 head of hogs and 72 barns that moved in within a mile of my property. So from that time on, I've come to realize, I have a purpose. Always before, it was doing my own thing at the farm, not really putting myself out to do anything else other than just working on my farm. But when that happened in 1995, it changed my life dramatically. This is about the time that, they really started ramping up. So me and Scott Dye took a journey to North Carolina to see what was really taking place, since this was where Wendell Murphy started this whole process of concentration. And coming back from North Carolina, from what I've seen was taking place to those operations there, with the drainage tiles going out into the streams and the rivers, the impact that was having led me to do what I did when I came back. I enlisted myself into trying to do something about this. And with the help of the Missouri Rural Crisis Center, Farm Aid, and many others, we held a huge rally in 1995 that brought over 3,000 people together, and there was 13 states represented at that point. So, at that point in time, I realized, the power building is what we have to do. And that's why I'm still working and dedicating myself with the Socially Responsible Agricultural Project. We work in over 30 states with 170 local communities that have requested our assistance to come and help them organize against either a projected operation coming in or one that's already built. So we look at numbers, just as we're looking at numbers here tonight. It takes people that's being impacted to get knowledge and know what is happening. So I think each one of us has something embedded in our personal being. We have a dedication, something we have to do. For me, my dedication is for my family, my children, my grandchildren. And these corporations have no respect for, in future, a politician, neither one. They care about what tomorrow brings. It's about now, them, themselves. So the question you should always ask any politician you talk with, what do you tell your family you do for a living? What are you going to tell your children you do for a living? What are you going to tell your grandchildren when they look back and say, what did Grandpa or great-grandpa do with his life? So we all have an obligation, and I hope, you know, from seeing this film tonight, that it embeds something into your souls, you know, that united, as has been spoken here tonight, is how we stand. If we don't stand united, we're going to get walked over. So, you know, I'm not going to go on because I know this question will be answered, but this wasn't at all what I want to talk about. But when you get this many people in a room, you have to have an impact and an influence, you know, to move them forward. And I hope from watching this film, listening to Jeff, listening to Tim, and the other speakers here tonight, that, you know, you'll be empowered to do what you can moving forward to see if we can change this situation. Thank you very much.
Next panelist is Tina Potts. Tina and her family own a 500-acre cow and calf operation in southern Cooper and northern Montauk counties. One of her farms is less than a half mile from a proposed corporate CAFO. Her family has been involved with this proposed CAFO since it was announced in January of 2018. Tina's neighbors met and organized as opponents of Cooper County CAFOs in February of 2018. Tina's neighbors knew the best way to protect themselves was a county health ordinance. After being rebuffed by their county commissioners, they met with Cooper County Health Department and ultimately passed a county health ordinance. Now, because the Cooper County Health Department passed a health regulation, it is facing a lawsuit brought by people who are against common sense regulation of CAFOs. Tina's neighbors have been involved in every way they could, visiting with representatives and senators, forming a stream team, working with the Missouri Rural Crisis Center and Socially Responsible Agriculture Project, going to the Capitol, conducting research, contacting state agencies, writing editorials, running ads on radio, and holding public meetings and inviting guest speakers and specialists. And with that, let me turn it over to Tina.
Well, I don't really need to say anything because I didn't know what I was doing when I typed that email. And I didn't know you were going to use all of that to introduce me. I am proud to be a citizen of Cooper County, where the Cooper County Health Department was not afraid to stand up for what is right, and they passed regulation that is based on air and water quality. They are also joining with Cedar County commissioners and some individuals to challenge the 391. I'll try not to duplicate anything else that's been said, but I have learned many distressing facts for this year and a half that we have been in this battle. I have learned that DNR and EPA cannot protect our clean air, clean water, and soil. I have learned that meat from CAFOs is not high quality and it is not healthy. I have learned that industrialized agriculture does not fit the definition of what an average person thinks farming is. I have learned that industrialized agriculture is not farming, it is big business. I have learned that current representatives and senators do not listen to individual constituents. They listen to lobbyists representing the cattlemen, soybean, hog producers, Missouri Farmers Care. Big Ag has big voice and big money, and that is who is being heard. All of these associations were started with the individual farmer at the core, and somewhere along the line, the original mission and vision has been totally manipulated. These issues that we have talked about tonight are very complicated and they cross party lines. They are not partisan issues, they are people issues. We need to spread the word, and we must spread the word. And it will take a while to get us out of this mess. My 92-year-old mother said it best, it ain't over till you give up. And we just can't give up.
Wrap up these introductory remarks by the panelists with Dr. John Eichert making some additional remarks.
All right, thank you. Well, I hope you learned one thing from the film. There is no right
harm. What we've seen here and what you've heard here is what I would call a classic failure of governance. When we have the citizens go to their state governments and to their regulators and ask for protection from the pollution that comes from CAFOs, they get regulations that basically give the CAFOs a legal license to continue their pollution. Whenever reporters go into the CAFOs and take pictures of the animal abuse within the CAFOs, what do they get? They get gag laws, which make it a crime to go in and take pictures inside of the CAFO operations. When you pass health ordinances at the county level, what do you get? You get state laws that take away local control. When you win nuisance suits, like the people did down in North Carolina, what do you get? You get the state legislature coming back and using the right to farm laws and strengthening those to prevent the nuisance suits. Whenever you ask for your help from the government, the corporate influence in government turns their right to farm into the right to harm. They double down on every threat. You know, this is not the first time in our country when our state governments and when federal government has given economic interest priority over the basic human rights of people. And that's what we see here today. The economic foundation of this country and the agricultural of this foundation of this country was built on the institution of slavery. It was essential to the economics of this country, and it was a government failure at that time. And the people, the founders of the country, knew that it was a failure because they wrote in the Declaration of Independence that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all are created equal, and they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And the next line, which most people don't understand, it says, to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men. The basic purpose of government was to protect the rights, and they do it. But they didn't do it. When the Constitution was written, the Constitution was silent on the issue of slavery, neither opposing or supporting it, because it was in the economic interest of the country at that time to continue the tragedy of slavery, and we are suffering from that tragedy still yet today. But eventually we had an awakening in this country. Eventually we had an awakening to both the hypocrisy and the tragedy of slavery. And when Abraham Lincoln first started his campaign prior to the Civil War, he made a speech at the Cooper Union in New York. And at that time, they were simply calling for a moratorium on slavery. They said, new states will not be slave states, but the slave states can stay there, a moratorium. And he went down a whole list of efforts to appease the southern states in bringing that about, to get them to accept that. And in this speech, he said, the question reoccurs, what will satisfy you? These natural and apparently adequate means all failing, what will convince them? This and this only. Cease to call slavery wrong and join in them in calling it right. And this must be done thoroughly, done in act as in words. The whole atmosphere must be disinfected of all taint of opposition to slavery. Now, I'm not equating slavery with CAFOs in terms of the magnitude or the seriousness of the issue and the damage that it's done, but it is of the same kind of government failure. It is putting economic interests, the economic rights of the slaveholders at that time, ahead of the basic human rights of people, and that's what's happening today. When we call for a moratorium on CAFOs, we're not saying get away, abandon the CAFOs, go out of business. We're saying no more new CAFOs, no expansion until we figure out how to deal with this. The industry doubles down. What will appease them? What can we do that will not lead to a response of this doubling down? And I would say ceasing to call CAFOs wrong and joining them in calling them right. That is the only thing. And do it in act and do it as in words.
This we simply cannot do. If we have a right to life in this country, we have a right to clean air and clean water, which is essential for life, and safe food, and life is essential for liberty, and the pursuit of happiness and quality of life is essential for liberty. These are foundational rights. So what do we do? We have a failure of government. What do we do? Our Declaration of Independence continues that whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends of ensuring our rights, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its power in such forms as they shall be most likely to affect their safety and happiness. That's what it says. You want to call me a radical for quoting from the Declaration of Independence? So how do we accomplish this? By all of the things you've heard here tonight. We've got to keep on keeping on. But I will close with the words of Lincoln as he closed out this Cooper Union, he says, address. He said, neither let us be slandered from our duty by false accusations against us, nor frightened from it by menaces of destruction of our government, nor dungeons to ourselves. Let us have the faith that right makes might, and in that faith let us to the end dare to do our duty as we understand it. There is no right to harm.
Which of you would probably be best to answer some of these questions, and you'll just have to kind of raise your hand and we'll take it from there. Okay, so the first one is, why are CAFOs not regulated under the Clean Air Act? Well, we do have a Clean Air Act, but yes. Okay, take it away.
It's because corporate lobbyists impact on our democratic process. I mean, why can CAFOs spray apply manure within 50 feet of your property line? Why can they spray apply within 300 feet from your drinking water well or 150 feet from a public use area? Why can 17,499 hogs be within 2,000 feet of your house? It's because corporate influence and corporate lobbyists in our state capitals and our federal capital buildings.
I agree with that, but I think also that they are covered by or were covered by the Clean Air Act, but they never come up with any regulations for all the reasons that you talked about. They never come up with any regulations, and now there's a move to remove them from the Clean Air Act. But the people in Arizona pointed out to me that they were covered by the Clean Air Act, but there was never any implementation, there were never any regulations put in place that would allow them to enforce it, for all the reasons that you know.
Okay, thank you. So I have a couple of questions that are along this line. So we'll kind of make it a two-parter here. What can be done about the Missouri law, which is SB 391, restricting local health ordinances, and are there other local controls that can be used? Anyone? Jeff?
So when we engaged in this lawsuit, that put a TRO in effect, so that Senate Bill 391 was supposed to take place on the 28th. That restraining order has got it held up. That's one reason why we were in court today. Robert Grundage and the Cattlemen's Association, Pork Association, Farm Bureau wanted to take that restraining order away, so we had to fight to defend that. I would like to say we won, but we won't know till next week. But we did the very best we could. And that will have a big impact. On the 16th is the court hearing, and I don't know if it'll be settled that day, but if we can beat 391 in court, that'll allow the health ordinances to flourish.
I might just say that, you know, this is in reality, this is our last option. I mean, we have been stripped of everything in this state other than you know, the local control that we've held on to for over 3 decades now, with MRCC support. So, you know, this is a frontline battle, and I really appreciate Jeff and the others that's weighed in on this, the counties that has filed this suit, because this is drawing the line in the sand, and everybody in this room, I'm sure, is behind you, Jeff, and the people that filed this suit.
And to answer the question a little differently, it's a little wonky. The court, the lawsuit that was filed, the third count is saying that there is local control under statute 192-300, which is the health ordinance statute, that within Senate Bill 391, it said that counties can't make anything more strict than these chapters, and the chapters were DNR and Health and Human Services. And well, there's things that the DNR doesn't regulate, like air. So within this lawsuit, it's going around 391, so that counties can still, if it's found that 391 is constitutional and that it is retroactive, even if it isn't retroactive, the counties can make different style of ordinances that go around 391 and deal with issues that DNR refuses to deal with. And so that's another form of local control that we're...
Okay, thank you, that sounds promising. Okay,
Tim, and the ordinance that the Cooper County Health Ordinance was passed, regulation, let me get the terms right, Cooper County Health Department passed regulation number 6, and it circumvents the 391. It takes into consideration air and water quality. So it circumvents the 391, gets around it. So that is the type of ordinance that counties should try to pass.
okay, Melinda?
I just want to add that Boone County, I don't know if it's still true, but at one time we had more beds per capita than Rochester, Minnesota, where the Mayo Clinic is. It is embarrassing to me that in a town with so much health care that we don't have a health ordinance. And it is even worse that our county commissioners are not standing up for what's right. So we have to remember that, you know, all of us have a phone, we can call the county commissioners. I encourage everyone who's a Boone County citizen to do that. They do work for us. These are our tax dollars that pay their salary. So at the very least, call them and ask for a health ordinance. It's the least that they can do, and show that you have you support them. And then if they don't do what's right for the public, then we have to find other commissioners to fill their shoes.
Okay, thank you. And along that same line, I do want to mention, I won't call them out by name, but just so everyone knows, there are several people here in the audience tonight who are considering running for office or who have announced they're running for office. And we do want to thank them for coming out to learn about this issue. So it's much appreciated. Okay, so here's a couple of questions that are related to the animals themselves. So I'll read a couple of them, and then maybe you can answer them together. Why was there no footage of the interior of the CAFOs? And please describe what happens to the animals within the CAFOs.
Well, I believe, you know, the aspect of the film was to show, you know, what the citizens that live around these. I mean, there's been other videos and stuff or things shown, you know, on the animals inside, but, you know, the concentration here was to show the impact that these are having in rural communities, to get the attention of the people that, you know, that don't have these yet, that are going to have them sooner or later. And I think that was an important issue here. We all know that, you know, sustainable family farmers, we don't treat our animals this way. We treat our animals with respect because they make our living. So, you know, as I said earlier, this is not over. Our cases are working all the way from Montana, all 4 corners of the United States, that the intrusion is here. Even Canada coming in Great Falls, Montana with a multi-species processing facility. We stalled it for right now, but they own 3,000 some acres and are putting up a cheese factory to get their foot in the door now, and then they can go ahead and probably expand. And multi exalted species, I mean one that will probably set precedent here in the United States. It will be 9,000 head of hogs a day, 12 to 13,000 or 18,000 head of cattle a day, 130,000 head of poultry a day, a dairy milk operation, a cheese plant, all in one facility. So imagine if industry decides, you know, we're tired of building these separate entities all across the United States, let's just put up one like in Great Falls or Canada did. So there's still a lot of stuff out there. So, you know, I think the important thing is on this film is to educate the people that aren't aware, haven't been close to these facilities in this film, to show that there is real harm and endangerment to the public health in these communities where they operate.
Yeah, can I speak to that just a second also? I think one of the things in talking with Matt about making the film, one reason he didn't put scenes inside, he says so many times the opposition to get CAFOs gets labeled as simply being animal rights, animal welfare issues. That's an important dimension of what we're talking about. But it gets labeled as being solely that. For example, right now there's an organization that's funded in Indiana, it's called Protect the Harvest, that's trying to label all of us that speak out in any way in opposition to CAFOs as all being part of a radical left-wing animal rights, animal welfare organization. The animal rights are extreme. He says, well, we want to do away with rodeos and do away with eating meat and everything of that nature. And I think what this film shows is that there's a lot of other reasons to be concerned about CAFOs in addition to the animal welfare issues. If you want to see what it looks like inside this, well, come up here and look at Melinda's book, the book of CAFOs. She's got them all inside. What's the name of the documentary that Craig Watts is in about eating meat, something like that? That one is very graphic about what's going on in CAFOs. So eating animals, maybe something like that. So, you know, there's documentaries out there that document pictures actually taken inside CAFOs, the CAFO books. That information is available. What he was trying to do here is show, sure, that's an important consideration, but there are all kinds of other considerations, even if you weren't concerned about that, you'd be concerned about CAFOs.
And I spoke about antibiotic resistance, but I didn't explain really why that happens. And that is that antibiotics are routinely given at sub-therapeutic levels to animals living in these horrid conditions, so that for the reason to prevent disease. The problem is that that sub-therapeutic level is exactly the level that breeds resistance. So the conditions are such that the animals need to be protected against disease. The other thing is that at those sub-therapeutic levels, they also cause weight gain, which is another reason why they're used.
And the thing is, that just isn't just speculation. The World Health Organization has come out linking feeding antibiotics to animals to antibiotic resistance and call for severe restrictions as Center for Disease Control and Prevention come out advocating for strict regulations, prevention of the routine feeding. There was a summit of the United Nations, the heads of state, one of only 4 in history, that had to do with health, and it had to do with antibiotic resistance, and the foundings of that come out clearly, said that it was related not only to hospital, it was related to the feeding of antibiotics to animals in CAFO operations. All of those recommended strict controls, and what do we have? A bunch of voluntary compliance that was written by the industry. It's not just somebody making this stuff up. There's a world of science out there backing this.
Okay, well, while we're on health effects here for a moment, I will ask the next question. It comes from a pediatrician. As a pediatrician, I gathered 600 signatures of cumulative medical experience who felt Senate Bill 391 was dangerous and misguided. The Senate Ag Committee gave us only 2 minutes to present our health concerns to them. These same politicians appoint the state health department officers, thus removing another avenue of discussion. How can we make our voices heard as medical professionals who are on the side of the citizens?
Well, I'm going to advocate that many more health professionals write letters to the editor and op-eds. They're very well read parts of the newspaper. I really would love to see more physicians speaking out in favor of getting rid or putting a moratorium on CAFOs. I think it's critically important for their voices to be heard.
Thank you. Okay, so the next question is related to encouraging everyone to think critically about the connection between the food that you eat and how it supports factory farming. And related question is, do you think there would be a public backlash if pork prices rise when CAFOs are banned?
Let me speak to the last part first, and somebody else can talk about the other part. But there was a study done by Iowa State University back when they still had funding for the Leopold Center, which was defunded by the state legislature because they were doing work on sustainable agriculture. But they did a study in Iowa of raising hogs under what they called the hoop house system. They were still inside, but they were in the hoop houses, and they had deep bedding, and they composted the bedding, and they were raised under humane conditions, not cows and things of this nature. And what they concluded that in many cases, a well-managed hoop house system was just as effective, just as efficient as the CAFO operations. They said on average, the most they found was something like $3 to $6 a head difference advantage for the CAFO over the system raising it in hoop houses. So on a hog that's coming out of a CAFO or coming out of one of these systems up here, around 280, 290 pounds, you get about 140 pounds of pork. So you take that 140 pounds of pork and what, 3 cents out of that 140 pounds, you're talking about 2 or 3 cents a pound, something like that. Maybe 4 cents a pound, which on $4, $3 pork, you're talking about 1 or 2% difference. And as Greg Gunther said in the film here, and up until about 2012, we hadn't produced any more hogs in the CAFOs or any greater supply of pork in the CAFOs than we had with the independent hog producers before. What they're inclined to do when they talk about the difference in here is they talk about the difference between going back to the 30s or 40s and the technologies we had at that time and how we could produce hogs at that time. And they compare the cost of production, feed efficiency, and everything to 1940, 1950. That's not the efficiency you're getting in a hoop house or in any other system that's on non-CAFO today. They're practically as efficient as the CAFO. The big advantage of CAFOs that in the hoop house system or something of this nature, you can't manage as many hogs because you have to take care of the hogs. You have to manage the operation. And so even though they're making less money per hog, they can manage thousands of hogs rather than a few hundred head of hogs. And so the consumer doesn't benefit. The one that benefits is the one that can manage thousands rather than hundreds of heads of hogs, and that's the producers.
Yeah, and I'll talk to the issue of the price of food, because there's really multiple factors there. For one, people need to earn a living wage so they can afford the real price of food at the market. The second part is that we really don't look at full cost accounting. So the price that you see at the grocery store that you pay at the checkout is really not the full price. There are externalities that we pay as taxpayers. In Iowa, for example, the citizens had to spend $15 million for expanded nitrate water treatment facilities. This piece from the Natural Resources Defense Council says, you know, we spend $55 billion lost due to excess hospital costs and lost productivity. So the price that you see in the counter is not the real price of the food. The other thing is, we should probably all be eating a little bit less meat. And, you know, the dietary guidelines say, what is a meat serving? Like the size of a deck of cards. It's not fill your plate with meat. But the way I stretch meat in my family, and I have the luxury of buying a half a hog from Sullivan Farms at the farmer's market, put it in a freezer. We don't each have a big pork steak on our plates. I might make a stir fry with it, or I might stir it into some other vegetables or rice to spread that meat. But the way we're moving with regard to climate change and how we want to be eating, we do want to eat a plant-based diet, but think of meat as a side dish. Meat is nutritious, I eat it, but we just have to change the way we think about how much we eat of it.
Good words to consider as we head into a weekend known for its barbecue.
And I would argue, eat Patrick Family Farm and eat a whole pork steak. That's what I would do. Just to answer that question right quick, that same argument is the argument they use within antitrust right now. If it's going to raise consumer prices, then we can't stop the merger mania from happening. That is totally monopolization of capitalism, which makes it not capitalism. It's monopolistic control of markets. So that argument is sort of, I don't like that argument because it actually is what the industry uses. It's a dominant narrative that they use. And then number two, and I'm going to ask Jeff a question right now. Jeff, where are cattle right now? Cattle prices?
They're pretty low.
Pretty low? Pretty much in the tank, right? Really bad. How about price of beef on the grocery store shelf? Hasn't changed much. So, I mean, the supply and demand argument is also not an argument. The corporations make as much money as they can through the supply chain because they're vertically integrated. We need to pay farmers, we need to pay workers, and people need to have a paycheck to be able to make money, be able to buy good food and have clean water.
Unfortunately, we're almost at the end of our time, so I'm going to close with a question which I know you each have touched on somewhat, but I think it's a good question to close, and so we can hopefully recap. If an interested person can do one thing to try and improve this situation, what should we prioritize?
Shop at the farmer's market. Support your local farmers.
You're getting some good answers there.
Yes.
You know, my quick thought would be this: you have to be involved. You have to be engaged to know what's going on, and you have to have concerns. So, you know, I think that's all shown here tonight that by everybody that participated, that you had a concern, and now just make a dedication to be involved.
Right. So I want to thank our panelists. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, join the Missouri Rural Crisis Center. Come down to the Capitol with us, and let's make some noise down there because they need to hear us.
A short response to this.
Go ahead.
I always tell people that I'm convinced that we each have a purpose in life. It's not the same, it's different, but there's something in life that we need to do. It's not something you accomplish, it's kind of a path that we're meant to walk. And if we can figure out what it is that we individually can do in this, and if we have the courage to go out and do it, we will have made the greatest contribution to this overall movement that we possibly could have made as individuals, because when we do that together. And so I think it's just decide what it is you can do in your little piece of the world. It just happens we're all in the same little piece of the world tonight, but we're all sharing this little world. If we decide what we can do in our little piece of the world, we have the courage to go out and do it because we know it's the right and good thing for us to do. Then I think that really right will make it mighty and we will prevail.
Anyone else? Yes, Jim.
I was accused of being an activist the other day, and I thought about that a little bit, and I said, by golly, I am. What everybody said here tonight, to sum that up, we all need to be activists, and every one of us here tonight are, and that's a positive thing. That's not negative, whether it's being in church or coming and supporting MRCC or the farms that need help or the anything that's going on. If you can be active and participate and try to stand up for what you believe strongly, and good things are going to happen. Thank you.
Jeff, I don't believe being an activist is a bad thing. If you look in the dictionary, it's somebody that wants to make change. So you're, you know, I'm proud to be an activist if you are.
All right, well, thank you, everybody. Did you want to make a comment?
I would just say, share information with everybody that you can share information with. Explain what you know, share your research, share it with the people you work, people you go to church with, the people you see, and just help them to be more knowledgeable. I have had people that live 2.5 miles from me that say, oh, well, I don't care about that. It's too far away to bother me. That's not true. And so just share.
I would say ask questions and hold people accountable. Work to hold people accountable who represent us. So in asking questions, you know, when you're reading an article, it is important to say, you know, what's missing from this? What isn't being told? And when it comes to your food, ask those basic questions, not only what's in it or what's on my plate, but who produced it and how was it produced, and then make decisions about eating based on the answers to those questions.
Very good. All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I do want to remind you that the sponsors have ways for you to get involved out at their tables, out in the lobby, and so you can check into that as you leave this evening. I wanted to thank everybody who submitted questions and comments. I know I didn't get to all of them, but we had planned on stopping about this time. So I'm sure some of the panelists would be happy to talk to you for a few minutes if you didn't get your question answered. So with that, we'll wrap this up, and thank you all very
Carolyn,
much for
we want to thank Carolyn too. Really, really well done. Thank you very much.
And talking about communicating, there was one more thing I wanted to say. She was talking about, telling people about what you have learned here tonight. Well, this film will be shown in 3 other locations around the state. The next one, I believe, is in Springfield, and then I think there's also showings in St. Louis and Kansas City. So it's important that we get our friends and family on board, and so I would ask you, if you know people in those locations, to share with them that they'll have the opportunity to view this film, and make sure that you use your social media networks if you're on those tools to do that. Thank you very much. Have a good night.